South Africa's 2025 matric results tell a story of progress and pressure. A record number of learners achieved bachelor's passes this year, rising by 8,700 candidates from 2025. This means 345,000 learners are eligible to enter the country's higher education system for degree study. However, over a third will be turned away, not because they lack ability or ambition, but because the system lacks space, even with larger institutions. To unpack this issue for us, we are now joined by CEO of Boston City Campus, Katz, and he joins us now via our video link. Mr. Katz, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. You know, when it comes to this issue of a lack of space in our universities, is it becoming a problem?
Well, there's definitely a problem in terms of capacity. However, one needs to bear in mind that it's not only the public sector that's available to learners, but there's also the private sector that's available. And today, approximately a third of students that are in higher education are actually studying at private institutions. So it's important to bear in mind that both public and private institutions are available to learners, both of whom are accredited by the Council for Higher Education, and both of whom actually award degrees and postgrads with the same accreditation from the Council for Higher Education.
And when you look at the various pathways for matriculants, and when you look at what we are faced with as a country, do we have enough pathways for the class of 2025?
I think there are many pathways available, and I think, yes, there are an adequate number, and especially with the emerging new careers that are available out there in the marketplace. However, the one thing that we see is that matriculants aren't necessarily aware of the myriad of options that are available to them. And the one thing that I would urge matriculants is to do is to get career guidance counseling and do career exploration, where they understand what each career actually entails. What are the subjects that you're going to study? What is the kind of work conditions that you're going to enter into? And what are the related careers? Because we realize that in today's world, a person might have multiple careers, and it's important to understand not only the career that you're entering into, but also the related careers where you might actually move into from your current career into another career.
And staying with that issue around education and the different pathways which are also available, would you say that our education system does prepare learners enough for a tertiary qualification?
So I think there are a couple of factors to bear in mind. I mean, let's just start with the matriculants that you spoke about, and you spoke about the increased number of matriculants that achieve bachelor's passes, which is commendable. However, we also need to bear in mind that only approximately a third of matriculants actually applied to write mathematics. And within the mathematics pass mark, it dropped from 69% to 64%. And that is significant, especially if you think of students who are looking to enter the STEM subjects. So that's one factor that we should bear in mind. However, in terms of whether the universities and colleges are adequately providing the education needed for the workplace, it's important to bear in mind that learners who do not have a tertiary education, north of 50% of those are unemployed. Whereas those who do have a tertiary education, only approximately 10% are unemployed. And therefore, clearly, obtaining a higher education is definitely a pathway into gaining employment, more so than if one doesn't have an education. In terms of the universities and what they're actually providing, and the colleges what actually providing in terms of being ready for the workplace, I do think that the tertiary institutions are being extremely innovative in adapting to the requirements that are needed in the workplace. For example, at Boston City Campuses here, we've introduced a Center for Cognitive Development, where we're focusing on things like attention, memory, executive functioning, emotional regulation. These are normally things that are not normally taught at university, but are definitely going to be skills that are going to be needed in the workplace, and particularly in the world of AI. I mean, a further innovation is the implementation of a concept called Textbook Plus, where students are going to have access to more than 1 million digital textbooks. Now, the consequence of that is that they will be able to do in-depth research, cross-reference, find similar explanations with other textbooks, highlights, etc. And most importantly, they'll be digitally savvy for the workplace. And I think lastly, if I may mention as well, the introduction of AI into the teaching and learning, which not only facilitates personalized learning, but also equips the learners
All
for
right.
the world of work where AI is going to be a significant factor.
All right, Mr. Katz, thank you so much for your time and for that insight. That is the CEO of Boston City Campus, Ari Katz there, just giving us an insight in terms of the number of options available, particularly for matriculants following that increase in the bachelor's pass of the class of 2025.